What's up, my Droid Seekers? Today, we're gonna be watching the First Punic War Oversimplified, but this is part 2. Previously on part 1, it talks about how it all started, yada yada, and now we're doing part 2 of where it ended. This is the First Punic War. So guys, let's go.
After the gigantic battle at Cape Ecnomus, the Romans were now free to land on African soil. And so, they did. The Carthaginians chose to focus on defending the city of Carthage itself. So the Romans immediately took the city of Aspis, and were then free to raid and plunder the countryside. They took over 20,000 slaves, and a ton of booty. But then, some orders arrived.
I wonder if that's a war crime.
Send
Well,
home the booty.
they didn't know that back then.
But I want to stay.
No, Steve, not you. They mean the treasure. Well, we are not watching any more of this filth. So the other consul left with the booty, leaving Regulus and his forces on their own, and they began advancing towards Carthage. Along the way, according to the ancient writer Livy, they encountered a literal dragon. Now, Livy was a Roman historian, so his account may be slightly exaggerated, but this, I believe. As the Romans continued to plunder, the Carthaginian people flooded into the city. Now, not only was it in a major panic, but it was so crowded, the people began to starve. Don't panic, everyone! Look, I know you're all starving, but I still have food. For me. So, you know, it's not all bad.
Bro, what?
Whoa! You're wasting your tomatoes! And you idiots wonder why you're starving? Oh well, it's just more food for me! Nom, 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 nom.
Things weren't
Wow, they're just
Carthage.
wasting. You know,
They
he's
had to
actually
do
saying the
something
truth.
to stop
I
the
mean,
Romans rampaging throughout their land. So they decided, finally, it was time to put an end to it. They headed out and set up on rough, hilly terrain overlooking the Roman camp, and they prepared for battle. Now, while the Carthaginians were the traditional masters of the sea, on land, they weren't always the brightest. Case in point, setting up in this position overlooking the Roman camp was just about the stupidest thing they could have done. Why? Well, there's something you gotta understand about Carthage. The Carthaginian land forces actually suffered from a multitude of different issues. First of all, since the Carthaginians were rich, they could afford to pay a huge number of foreign mercenaries to fight for them. These mercenaries actually made up the vast majority of Carthage's forces. And
serious?
Carthage's land armies were a melting pot of many different cultures. This, however, meant that if a battle wasn't going their way, there could be loyalty issues. Man, I ain't getting paid enough for this. You Balearic slingers better not be thinking of running away. What did he say? I don't know, man. I don't speak Phoenician. Let's get out of here. Clearly, there were also language issues. The military generals tended to be Carthaginian, but they made a lot of...
So, you saw what it said, these 4 types of troops, the mercenaries, the Balearic, the Spartans, yada yada, and there were 4 types. Well, somehow they have language issues, which is kind of funny. How are they even getting so many mercenaries, and yet they cannot even, like, you know, do as they say? Well, you gotta train troops, man. Don't buy mercs, make your own troops.
A lot of strange decisions. For example, one of the most feared assets of the Carthaginian army were the war elephants. To a Roman soldier who had never even seen an elephant before, this was like fist fighting, a literal monster. Yet the Carthaginians continually kept placing the elephants in the rear, where they were no use. In a similar fashion, the neighboring region of Numidia provided Carthage with the most skilled cavalrymen in the world. But the Carthaginians often chose to fight on rough, uneven terrain, where horses and elephants were less effective.
Wow.
So, in this case, when the Carthaginians again chose the rough terrain near the Roman camp, the Romans easily sent them packing. Wow,
serious?
Regulus, we're mere miles from Carthage. You sure are amazing. Yes, Steve. I know. Steve? What's the matter? We've almost won. I just wish I could be as great as you, Regulus. Steve, you're amazing. I mean, look at this thing. It's unbelievable. I know, but I mean like, at war stuff. I'm such a noob. My tanks always get blown up. I can't even fly an aircraft straight.
Oh, here we go.
Aircraft? What are you talking about, Steve? I'm talking about free-to-play online multiplayer combat game, and this video's sponsor,
War Thunder!
War Thunder, is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. Don't just drive the tank, become one with the tank.
What?
You can play as more than 2,000 battleships, aircraft, tanks, and helicopters in dynamic player versus player combat. With amazing 4K graphics, each vehicle is incredibly detailed and modeled down to their individual components. And for history nerds like you and I, the vehicle collection in War Thunder spans over 100 years of military development, from the 1920s to the present day. I
Wow.
love the detailed damage mechanics in War Thunder. You ever think about how the exact angle a shell hits an armored vehicle affects the resulting damage? War
Oh, no.
Thunder has. Every bullet and shell is simulated with realistic destruction. That's the kind of thing that gets me up in the morning. And by using my link in the description below, new and existing users can get an exclusive Oversimplified decal to make their T-50 tank look extra spicy. Plus, you'll get a huge bonus pack, including premium vehicles and boosters. So play War Thunder now on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. And as always, by using my link, you'll be supporting my channel. So thank you. Now where were we? Oh yeah. Invading Africa, getting some booty, and sending the Carthaginians packing. Everything was looking up for Regulus. A Roman victory seemed like it was only a matter of time. But then, Regulus realized something. He had been consul for almost a year, and his term was coming to an end. He knew that if his successor took over and he finished the job, then he would get the naked statues, not Regulus. And there was no way Regulus was going to allow that. So he jumped the gun.
You there, Carthaginian boy!
I want you to deliver a message to your elders.
I, Marcus Attilius Regulus, demand the total
Who,
and
the first,
unconditional
second, or third?
surrender of Carthage. Unconditional surrender? Jeez, at least lay siege and starve us all to death first. Just deliver the message, you punk!
He demands your total surrender.
What? Jeez, at least lay siege and starve us all to death first.
Hey, that's what I said. Well, boys, this Roman thinks we're out.
But we're not out, are we, boys? No! We'll do what we always do in times like this.
Hire somebody else to solve our problems for us.
Darren,
Serious?
bring in the Spartan.
Regulus's overly harsh demands had the unintended effect of reinvigorating Carthaginian resolve. They brought in a mercenary from the famed land of Sparta named Xanthippus to
No, guys, let me tell you something. The Spartans were like very excellent warriors. They're called Brothers of Sparta. I mean, if you don't know about that, think about it. Because you see, in a game called God of War, this fiction game, they call themselves. Well, let me tell you this. Kratos was a fictional character in a game called God of War. He served a military. Well, he was a general many years ago in a fictional game. And they call themselves the Brother of Sparta. But now, if I'm right, in real life back then, the Brothers of Sparta, the Spartans were like they were like military dictatorship type, because consider, like, look at that guy, for example, Xanthippus. I mean, that guy has literally like an armor. I mean, sometimes none of them got armor, because one time, let me show you why.
help dig them out of this situation. And we all know what's
See these guys? Brothers of Spartans should have armor, but look at these guys. They don't have armor on. That's what gets them killed a lot. They have helmets, but what they really need is armor. And something like that. But they are special for their spears. They're very good on land, but there's two different types of factions in Greece. The Spartans and the Athenians, or the Athens, back in like what, ancient times? The Athens were good at sea, well, rulers of the sea, while the Spartans are conquerors of land, or aka rulers of land, basically.
Spartans are like. Xanthippus showed up and immediately took charge. He had a look around and said, You idiots! Put the elephants in front of the army so they can smash into the Romans. And stop fighting on rough, uneven terrain. Find a big flat field so your superior cavalry can do their job. And what's this I hear about you giving a speech telling everyone they're gonna die? Hey, I was just telling the people the truth. You're a politician. Lie to the people. And so Xanthippus led out the newly reformed Carthaginian army to meet Regulus in the Battle of the Bagridas River. The elephants, now in the front, smashed into the Roman lines, causing disarray. The cavalry, with total freedom of movement, outflanked the Roman infantry. Thanks to this impressive Spartan, the battle was a total Carthaginian victory. And
Wow.
Xanthippus, for his stunning victory, was forced to flee Carthage because the leadership got jealous. Regulus,
Really?
the Roman consul, was captured during the battle.
Seriously,
Legend has
so, bruh, these Carthaginians are idiots. They're jealous of him because of his talents. Bro, even if you're jealous, you must put him in the military. You shouldn't be jealous and just send him back to Sparta or wherever it is. That's a stupid move.
it. He was brought before the Carthaginian council, and they made a proposition. Well, Reggie, not looking so good anymore, is it? Looks like we beat you pretty bad, huh?
Up yours, you Punic pansies!
Now, Regulus. Nobody likes a sore loser, do they? No. How about this? We're gonna send you back to Rome, and you convince.
Bro, how is he a sore loser even though he was literally destroyed by a commander, a mercenary general from Sparta, and yet it said here a moment ago that Xanthippus was literally kicked out of Carthage. I mean, he did not. Somehow he was beaten by Xanthippus and yet kicked out by the Carthaginians, and yet he's captured and he calls him a sore loser. I might think so. I do not really know.
the Roman Senate to surrender to us. If you fail, though, you gotta come back so we can torture you to death. Okay? Okay. You promise? I promise. Hey guys. Whoa, Regulus! We thought you got captured. I did, but they sent me back to convince you to surrender. Well, should we? Surrender? No! Never surrender! Give them hell, boys. They're at the end of their rope. Anyway, I gotta go be tortured to death now. What? Yep, part of a deal I made. It's a long story. Whoa, hey, wait!
Okay.
Regulus. No, it's cool, guys. I promised. Regulus! This is ancient times. We massacre entire populations. We chop pets in half.
Wow.
You can break a promise.
No, Tim! You never break a promise! That's too far!
And so, Regulus went back to Carthage and was tortured to death. And for keeping his promise, he was immortalized as the leading symbol of Roman virtue.
No, I always think like this. Did he did for his people, or there's three things that makes me think. One, did he did just so he could get fame and renown, like for example, to be popular? Secondly, did he just want to help his people? Or third, I forgot what I was gonna say. I thought he was gonna be honored. That's basically like the first. Sorry, that's just my cat. I'm sorry.
Meanwhile, after their defeat in Africa, the remaining Roman survivors, still in Africa, were still in Africa, and they needed to be rescued. So the Romans sent their fleet to pick him up and bring him home. They successfully fended off a Carthaginian fleet, grabbed the survivors, and made their way to Sicily. A great success. But then, things took a turn for the worse. Sir? That cloud looks kind of angry.
Fear not, coward!
If we Romans can build a war fleet from scratch and defeat the Carthaginian Empire at their own game,
Oh, that's what they're
then
called?
even Mother Nature herself will crumble before us. I laugh in the face of Mother Nature. Ha ha!
see? Come on, guys. Laugh at Mother Nature with me. Ha ha!
Bro, that is a lot of people dead.
284 ships.
I like the
Nearly
animation
80%
though. I really
of
liked
the Roman
it.
fleet was destroyed. As many as 100,000 men.
284
drowned in a
ships.
terrifying
Man, they
act of
lost a
nature.
bunch of ships.
Never before had Rome lost so many men in a single incident.
Wow.
100,000 casualties for any other nation would be crippling. Any other nation would hastily sue for peace. Any other nation would spend decades trying to recover. But Rome was not just
I
any
didn't
other
hear
nation.
no bell.
Infamous
What?
for its unrelenting determination in the face of overwhelming odds, Rome said, well, I guess we'll just have to build another fleet. And they did. In just
Wow.
3 months, they built 220 more ships. An astonishing feat. The Romans sent out their brand spanking new war fleet. And
Another storm again? Bro,
they
how many
got
storms
caught
are there?
in
And is there a
another
horse
storm.
trying to like
this time,
say help,
a
help?
whole nother fleet was lost. And still, the Romans did not give up. The Carthaginians couldn't believe it. Their enemy had just lost hundreds of thousands of men, had 2 fleets almost entirely destroyed, and they still wouldn't surrender.
Yeah, I
As
cannot
one
believe
Roman
that.
poet put it, the victor is not victorious if the vanquished does not consider himself so. In typical
That's a
Roman
famous
fashion,
word right
after
there.
a short break, they were once again building another fleet. However, for now, after all the
Sorry, it's my
disasters at
cat.
sea, the focus began shifting back to the land campaign in Sicily. The Carthaginians, overconfident from recent successes, attempted to retake Panormus, but the Romans countered the terrifying war elephants by throwing stuff at them and scaring them away. Having stopped the Carthaginian advance, the road was now open to the final Carthaginian stronghold on the island, Lilybaeum.
Lilybaeum.
was an extremely well-fortified city. In 250 BC, the Romans laid siege. The Carthaginian defense, however, was fierce, and skilled
Wow.
blockade runners kept the city supplied. Progress was so slow that the siege would last another 9 years. To make matters worse, the Carthaginians later sent possibly the greatest military general of the time, a man named Hamilcar Barca, to the island.
Wow.
He engaged in a skillful campaign of guerrilla warfare behind enemy lines, and for the remainder of the war, he was a major thorn in the Roman side. For now, with the deadlocked siege at Lilybaeum and the new Roman fleet at sea, things seemed to be at a standstill, and the Romans had to do something to break the deadlock. Thankfully, the Roman consul, Clodius Pulcher, had an idea. He tried to get things moving by attacking the Carthaginian fleet at Trapana. Now, before a battle, to predict if they would win, it was common for the Romans to look for signs from the gods. This could
Really?
be observing the weather or
Well,
inspecting
duh.
some cow livers. You know, typical religion stuff. In this case, Pulcher reportedly
I always think because he said that looking at cow liver and stuff and the organs, I always think like they study the organs of it and then, you know how we see pictures of it? Well, by ancient times, basically, the religion stuff. That's what I was gonna say.
tried to feed some sacred chickens, but unfortunately for him, they wouldn't eat a crumb.
What?
A very bad sign. Well, he said, if they
Sorry, it's
won't
my
eat,
cat.
Then let them drink, stupid chickens! We'll observe the weather instead. Gods, give me a sign.
Yeah, and then a thunderstorm.
Okay, how about this? If I can get this piece of paper into that trash basket, we'll win.
Okay, if I can stand here silently for 5 seconds and do nothing, we'll win. Dagnammit!
Pulcher chose to ignore the signs from the gods, and in the following battle, the superior Carthaginians tore them to shreds. It also didn't help that by
Wow.
now the Romans had removed the corvus to stabilize their ships, and without
That's
their
kinda
secret weapon,
stupid.
it was a disaster, and Pulcher was disgraced. To make matters worse, the victorious Carthaginian fleet then went on to intercept a Roman supply fleet on its way to Lilybaeum. As they approached, however, they saw the signs of an incoming storm, so they took shelter. The Romans, on the other hand, said, "Onward, men! Set sail! We've got to deliver these supplies stat!" But sir, those clouds, don't you think we ought to have learned our lesson by now? Yes, Brian, we ought to have. But we haven't. Another fleet
Really?
and
You haven't
50,000
learned a
men
damn thing?
lost in another storm.
Man, these guys
Disaster.
don't even. Well,
Now,
to be
at
honest,
this point,
they have to
there
supply
still
it.
really isn't a
I mean,
clear
I can't
winner.
blame them for
Sure,
that.
the Romans have captured most of Sicily and cornered the Carthaginian land forces at Lilybaeum. But the continued disasters at sea were critically depleting their resources. And without a strong fleet, Rome could not win. Meanwhile, Hamilcar Barca was still knocking about and creating even more problems. So, where do we go from here? How does this war finally end?
Yeah, I just
By
wondered
now,
about that
the two
actually.
sides had been fighting for 23 years. They were exhausted. Their money, their resources, their strength were all utterly spent. The
Wow.
Carthaginians in particular were eager to see the war end so they could get back to trading and making money. So after the latest Roman disaster at sea, they said, look, there ain't no way in heck the Romans can come back again. They can't possibly afford to build another fleet. They're done. That's it. Recall the navy, repurpose them as merchant ships, and let's get back to making some money. Assuming the Romans would soon make peace, an anti-war faction within the government recalled a large portion of the navy, leaving Hamilcar on his own. The victors appeared to be declaring themselves victorious. Meanwhile, the vanquished were getting ready for round 5.
Wow.
The Romans built another fleet, this time heavily relying on patriotic donations from the upper classes to afford it. And once again, they put to sea.
Wow.
Sir, the Romans have built another fleet. Oh, for goodness sake, Clarence, can't you see I'm busy rolling around in this pile of money? But sir, I don't care anymore, Clarence. I just don't care. The Carthaginian politicians made a fairly lackluster final effort with a poorly built fleet to
Wow.
supply their
Damn.
forces in Sicily. But when the brand new Roman fleet caught them at the Battle of the Aegates, even without their signature corvus, they dealt them the final blow. And that was that. 23 years of war. Neither side could afford to keep fighting, but the Romans showed that they intended to anyway. The Carthaginians had no choice but to throw in the towel. The war had
It
been long and
means
hard for
the
both
surrender
sides,
flag.
But in the end, it was Roman
Surrender
determination
flag.
that
Yes.
won the
Surrender
fight.
flag.
The
Sorry.
Romans had spent the entire war trying to find a way to deliver the knockout blow. They learned how to build a fleet and engage in naval combat. They developed ingenious new ways of waging war.
Wow.
They attempted an invasion of the Carthaginian heartland, and whenever disasters struck them, they always came back, again and again. The Carthaginians, on the other hand, spent the entire war watching whatever Rome did, and then figuring out how to respond. They were much more passive, and so, it's no wonder then that when both sides were close to collapse, Rome was the one who figured out how to go that little bit further. In
That was a little
241
risky right
BC,
there.
The Carthaginian politicians sent word to Hamilcar Barca that he was on his own and could choose to make peace with the Romans if he wished. Hamilcar was stunned. He felt betrayed by the politicians. Some sources say he refused to even negotiate. Nevertheless, terms had to be drawn up. Well, Hammy, I'm glad you Carthaginians have finally come to your senses and recognized who the true winner is. How many fleets did you lose? Okay, here are our terms.
How many fleets do you
leave
lose?
Sicily to
Yeah,
us
that's a
and
good
return
question.
All of our prisoners. You're not allowed to make war against Syracuse or her allies, and you have to pay us 2,200 talents of silver over the next 20 years. What's a talent of silver? Well, to put it in perspective, in the year 2022, that'll be worth around, let's say, 40 million US dollars.
Wow.
That will
Wow.
cripple us. Wow, we got a real smart guy over here. Yeah, that's kind of the point, you dingus. Ugh, I guess I have no choice. I accept. Great. Oh, by the way, we changed our minds. You actually have to pay us 3,200 talents of silver over 10 years. Thanks for accepting.
Dude!
See you later.
Hey! You didn't let me say uncool!
He didn't let me stay on cool. The treaty was
Ouch.
extremely punishing, and by switching up the terms at the last minute, they enraged the Carthaginians. But still, one of the longest and deadliest wars at the time was finally over.
23
The Romans
years, that's a
had
long
won.
time.
They achieved their aim of gaining
For
Sicily,
ancient times,
and even though
basically.
it wasn't part of the peace deal, they took advantage of a weakened Carthage.
Oh yeah, you know what's long? The Cold War. Because after World War II, the Cold War started because something about the capitalists and the communists. Took about like until 1990, if I remembered it correctly. Yeah, I heard them saying that 1990 was the fall of the Soviet Union. I have no idea, but that's what I've heard. So yeah, basically this is long in ancient times, but in the Cold War, ooh, you won't believe how long that was. I mean, 1945 to 1990. Yeah, that's a long war, and 18. Yeah, I'm not gonna say it again.
And grabbed Corsica and Sardinia as well. Roman expansion beyond the Italian peninsula had just begun. The Romans hoped that now the Carthaginians would forever be under their thumb. Unfortunately, the harsh terms they placed on the Carthaginians at the end of the war left a growing anger.
Wow.
That would come back to haunt them. One day, Carthage will have its revenge. That's nice.
Hey guys, did you notice that thing, the television thing? That's Drew Dooley. I forgot what name he was, but he made these country ball things. If you do not see it, go to the right and you'll see the television, and right there you see a guy with a mustache and a country ball, which I can clearly tell is America and Japan. So yeah.
Dear, I'm serious, woman. Maybe not in my lifetime, but perhaps in his. My beautiful son. You are born into a momentous destiny. You shall be Rome's greatest enemy. You'll tear Rome limb from limb. You'll burn their pathetic city into the ground. You'll slaughter their people, men, women, and children. My child, you are vengeance. Stop telling our baby he's vengeance. But he is, Barbara. He's vengeance. That may be so someday, but for now, our son has a name, and you should call him that instead. His name is...
Yo, that's kind of cool. The Second Punic War. Let's see who's the winner.
Don't forget to play War
No. What?
Thunder now by clicking my link in the description below. Get a huge bonus pack including premium vehicles, boosters, and more.
Also, guys, these vehicles, the Panzer 3N, the Sturg 42G, and the SDKFZ 234, which is a light tank, well armored. I'm not very sure, but it had 4 wheels. Yeah.
New and existing users will also get the
Is that a
very sexy
Legionnaire
Oversimplified
helmet?
decal, so you can destroy
Like
your
Italian,
enemies
I mean.
in style.
Alright guys, that was actually nice to watch, and that's gonna be all for now. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.